With each passing year, cars became more powerful and faster. And along with that, the dangers of using them increased. On crowded roads, dangerous traffic incidents were happening more and more often. To reduce the risk of injury to drivers and passengers during accidents, new technical requirements were constantly being introduced into the design and layout of cars. These requirements had to comply with strict road safety standards. Each new generation of cars received new features designed to protect the health and lives of drivers and passengers. These included seat belts, dual-circuit braking systems, safety steering columns, plastic instrument panels, plastic bumpers, special bodies with crumple zones, and airbags. All these passive safety features were introduced gradually, and the main way to test their effectiveness became controlled crash tests, which were called crash tests. Nowadays, such strength tests are part of the licensing process for new models, without which no car can go into mass production. While in Western car companies, one of the main requirements for new cars is compliance with road safety standards, in the Soviet Union, where cars were a scarce commodity. The main thing required from a vehicle was its durability and ease of repair, not some ephemeral extra features responsible for the safety of the driver and passengers. According to propaganda, cars in the USSR, like all Soviet armor, were the strongest in the world. What could the complete absence of tragic road incidents on Soviet roads, or at least reports of such incidents in the Soviet press, possibly indicate? And if such statistics are classified and nothing is reported in the press, then that means there are no accidents at all. And Soviet cars are the safest in the world. That was the case at least until the late 1960s, when a new rapid development of the automotive industry began in the USSR. New models were being developed with the intention of selling them not just abroad, but specifically to Western countries. And to sell cars there, it was necessary for the vehicle to meet the required safety standards, which became much stricter in the early 70s. So, the first car to crash into a wall, or rather, to undergo a crash test, was the Moskvich 408, a Soviet passenger car of the first group of the small class, produced from 1964 to 1975 in Moscow at the MZMA, the Moscow Small Car Factory, which was later renamed AZLK, the Leninist Komsomol Automobile Plant. In addition, production in Moscow continued from 1966 to 1969 in Izhevsk as well. For its time, the Moskvich, which was built in the typical straight-line body style of that era, was quite original and fashionable, and its design was modern. The car stood out for its rather comfortable interior and had a good price-to-quality ratio. That's why a significant portion of Moskvich cars produced in the 1960s were exported. For example, in 1968, 55% of the annual production volume was exported. The Moskvich 408 was equipped with a 1.3-liter inline 4-cylinder gasoline engine producing 50 horsepower. The car's weight is 1 ton and 50 kilograms. The maximum speed is 122 kilometers per hour. So, the crash test of this model, which took place at one of the Moskvich factory's proving grounds, can be seen on your screens, where the experimental 408 model crashed into a vertical wall at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. From the impact, the windshield shattered into small pieces, and the rear window immediately popped out. The deformed front part of the car lifted up, just like Marilyn Monroe's skirt in one of her famous clips. The front fenders also shifted and became deformed, which, in turn, blocked the front doors. The impact was so strong that the dummy driver's detached head flew out of the cabin like a cork from a champagne bottle. And here are the slow-motion shots of this crash test. Next up for the wall impact was the four-door sedan Moskvich 412, which had been produced at AZLK since 1967 and was the premium model of the Moscow plant, which was produced in parallel with the Moskvich 408. Production of this car in Moscow continued until 1976, and in Izhevsk all the way until 1997. The Moskvich 412 was equipped with a 1.4-liter inline 4-cylinder gasoline engine producing 80 horsepower. The car's weight is 1 ton and 45 kilograms, with a top speed of 142 kilometers per hour. During a crash test that took place at the Automotive Proving Ground in 1975, the premium model of the Moskvich performed slightly better. But even here, after the impact, the front part of the car ended up looking like a squashed bulldog snout. Although the windshield cracked, it stayed in place. It was a different story with the front doors, which shifted from the impact and deformed the center door pillar. The Moskvich 427 station wagon was also subjected to the crash test. Because of its greater weight, it showed significantly worse results. Upon hitting the wall, the front part of the hood crumpled like a sheet of paper in the hands of a dissatisfied perfectionist rider. The front left fender was also deformed and shifted, and the driver's door got jammed, and in turn, it pressed against the edge of the rear door. The windshield popped out of its frame, but did not break. The Moskvich 2140 showed much better results in the crash test, which was a modernization of the 412 model and was produced at the Moscow AZLK plant from 1976 to 1988. Compared to the base model, the modernized sedan featured a new body, a more contemporary design for the front and rear, and new lighting equipment. In addition, the Moskvich 2140 was equipped with new disc brakes with a vacuum booster, a new interior with a heat-safe dashboard and steering wheel, as well as seats with headrests. All these features met the new, stricter international safety standards. During the strength tests conducted at the Proving Ground in 1987, the new Moskvich model showed excellent results. The front part of the car, like the jaw of a battle-hardened boxer, withstood the impact against the wall with only minor deformations. The problem area of the car, as with the previous model, was the door pillars, which deformed during the crash test and caused the front and rear doors to shift. But overall, the test results were satisfactory. The last Moskvich to undergo a crash test was the 2141 model. It was a 5-door, front-wheel drive hatchback produced at the AZLK plant from 1987 to 2002. The car was equipped with a whole range of gasoline engines with displacements from 1.5 to 2 liters. The car's weight is 1,090 kilograms. The maximum speed is 185 kilometers per hour. During the crash test with a 100% frontal collision, the car showed good results, sustaining only minor deformation of the front part. The results were much worse in the 40% offset test, when the main impact at a speed of 64 kilometers per hour hit the driver's left side. From the collision with the concrete wall, not only the hood was deformed, the roof also shifted, and the rear trunk lid popped open. In 1970, mass production began at the newly built Volgas automobile plant in Tolyatti, constructed by the Italians, of the VAZ 2101 Zhiguli, a 5-seat, 4-door sedan that was a licensed copy of the Fiat 124. The car was equipped with a 4-cylinder inline gasoline engine. It had a displacement of 1.2 liters and produced 59 horsepower. The Zhiguli weighed 955 kilograms. The car's maximum speed was 142 kilometers per hour. This model was produced until 1988 and became the most mass-produced passenger car in the USSR. In total, over 18 years of production, 4,846,900 VAZ2101 cars, nicknamed Kopika, rolled off the assembly line in Tolyatti. This model also became the foundation for an entire family of VAZ models. In the early 70s, the Kopika underwent a crash test, where it showed slightly better results than the Moskvich, mainly regarding the door frames, which hardly deformed upon impact. However, when it came to the front part of the car, the concrete wall proved merciless, deforming the hood, which with its edge knocked out the windshield. 9 years later, this model underwent another crash test, but this time the results were much worse. The hood and roof were deformed, and the front axle was displaced. This test only confirmed the decline in the quality of materials and assembly in later years of the Zhiguli Kopika model. The popular Soviet compact car, the ZAZ 966, also underwent the strength test, a lightweight, 2-door, rear-engine sedan that was produced in various modifications at the Zaporozhets automobile plant from 1967 to 1971. The car was equipped with a 1.2-liter gasoline engine producing 40 horsepower. The Zaporozhets weighed 760 kilograms, with a top speed of 118 kilometers per hour. A crash test of this model, with a dummy in the passenger seat, was conducted in 1972 at the Nami Proving Ground near Moscow. Overall, the results were unsatisfactory. A collision with a wall at a speed of 53 kilometers per hour proved fatal for the car. The entire front part, where the trunk is located, was crushed like an empty tin can. The steering column was pushed into the cabin. Both car doors were completely jammed. The dummy itself was trapped between the displaced dashboard and the seat. Such an impact would have been fatal for it. In 1978, a similar test was conducted on the 968 model of the Zaporozhets, which was produced in Zaporozhye from 1970 to 1994. The results of the strength test were also disappointing. The rigidity of the front part was insufficient, which led to significant deformation. The roof and car doors were also deformed, and the steering column shifted upward. Just a year later, the modernized Zaporozhets model, the ZAZ968M, showed much better crash test results. From the impact with the wall, only the front part was deformed and the steering wheel shifted slightly. At the same time, the windshield, doors, and roof remained undamaged. And what would strength tests be without the famous Soviet off-road vehicles? In 1980, the all-wheel drive vehicle UAZ969M Volynenka underwent a crash test. Since 1979, it had been produced at the Lutsk automobile plant and was a modernization of the famous UAZ969 off-roader. The 1970 model had a 4-seat, 2-door open body, which could be covered with a canvas top. The off-roader was equipped with a 4-cylinder, air-cooled gasoline engine with a displacement of 1.2 liters and an output of 40 horsepower. The car weighed 960 kilograms, with a maximum speed of 85 kilometers per hour. During a crash test that took place in 1980, the Luaz proved to be a real Terminator, suffering minimal deformation and damage when colliding with a concrete wall. That same year, the Niva also underwent its own crash test. A Soviet small-class SUV with a unibody design and permanent all-wheel drive from the Volga automobile plant. The SUV has been produced since 1977 and is still in production today. It comes in both 3-door and 5-door configurations. The car is equipped with a 4-cylinder inline gasoline engine with a displacement of 1.5 liters and an output of 75 horsepower. The vehicle weighs 1,550 kilograms. Its top speed is 132 kilometers per hour. During crash testing against a wall, the Volga SUV performed worse than the Volynenka. The front part of the vehicle suffered significant deformation. The windshield was damaged and popped out of its mounting. On the plus side, the roof, side pillars, and doors were almost completely undamaged. In 1969, another legend of the Soviet auto industry was put through strength tests. The UAZ469 Bobik off-roader, which began production in 1972 at the Ulyanovsk automobile plant. The UAZ469 is an all-wheel drive, front-engine, 7-seater station wagon or phaeton with a removable canvas top and 4 side doors, each equipped with detachable metal frames with glass. The vehicle was equipped with a 2.4-liter inline 4-cylinder UMZ gasoline engine producing 75 horsepower. The car weighs 1,650 kilograms. The maximum speed is 120 kilometers per hour. During the crash test of the Bobik, which took place even before the start of mass production, there was minimal deformation of the hood and bumper. At the same time, the front axle did not shift. The windshield, doors, and interior also remained intact. Special attention was paid to the strength of the construction and safety during the production of executive cars used by the Communist Party elite. In 1968, the GAZ-21 Volga model, a 5-seater, 4-door sedan whose mass production had been established at the Gorky automobile plant since 1956 and continued until 1973, underwent a crash test. The car was equipped with a 4-cylinder ZMZ-21 gasoline engine with a displacement of 2.4 liters and a power output of 75 horsepower. The car's weight was 1,450 kilograms. The maximum speed was 130 kilometers per hour. During the crash into the wall, the car's hood was significantly deformed. The engine shifted a few centimeters backward. The steering column and the front seat also shifted. The driver's door got jammed, but the passenger doors opened after a bit of effort. In 1974, the Volga GAZ-24 underwent a crash test, a Soviet mid-size car that, since 1970, had replaced the previous GAZ-21 model. The sedan was equipped with a 4-cylinder inline gasoline engine with a 2.4-liter displacement and 95 horsepower. The car's weight is 1 ton 820 kilograms. The maximum speed is 145 kilometers per hour. During the crash test, the impact against the wall caused only minor deformation of the front part. At the same time, the rest of the car's structural elements remained undamaged. This demonstrated the exceptional structural strength of the Volga. In 1982, another executive-class Volga model, the GAZ-3102, also proved its strength. However, during the crash test, it sustained somewhat more significant damage to the front part. In 1985, as part of the development of a new top-class armored executive car, the ZIL-4105, a crash test was conducted in which the Stalin-era armored limousine ZIS-115 was slammed into a wall. It withstood the impact remarkably well and sustained minimal damage. But the crash test of the ZIL-4104 limousine, conducted in 1983, revealed a significant structural weakness in Soviet cars of this class. The ZIL engineers put on a real show. Back in 1972, a production ZL-130 truck with a dummy behind the wheel was sent rolling down a steep slope. On its way to the bottom, the truck rolled over 3 times sideways, after which the cab was basically destroyed, almost completely flattened. The only thing that stopped the cab from being completely crushed were the dummy's legs, which got stuck between the hood and the roof. Such Soviet crash tests were not systematic and were not necessarily taken into account when building and designing new vehicles. All this led to the fact that the design of Soviet cars was at a low level in terms of safety, which often resulted in tragic incidents. Information about these incidents, due to press censorship, never reached the majority of the Soviet population, creating the illusion that Soviet cars were the safest in the world.